Welcome to this music discussion. This is a discussion, a debate about the world of music primarily. We're going to talk about what is the latest and greatest in the news. Today, in the news, as I was looking for the latest and greatest in the world of music and artificial intelligence, I happened to come across a rather interesting article. And that is the article that will form the base of our discussion today. First of all, thank you very much for coming. In the chat, I have various questions I would love for you to answer as you can. Put an answer in the comments if you're able, and it will help move the discussion further. Okay. So let's read the article together. AI Music Night host explains why his open forum got cancelled. The vision of Paul Slavin's AI Music Night at Rubber Gloves was promptly shut down after social media backlash. I'm kind of asking for trouble, Paul Slavins remembers thinking he was on the phone with Chad Withers, owner of Rubber Gloves Recording Studio. I'll summarize it. He pitched Withers on an open forum for AI generated music where people would discuss the future of AI music, listen to AI songs that they've created, and eventually experiment with creating an AI song together. Initially skeptical, Withers took Slavins up on the idea, set up the date for 9th of September. It would have been the culmination of half a year's worth of study by Slavins, the legendary Denton musician and radio host, who described his hearing an AI-generated song that he particularly loved as a revelation and having a religious epiphany. I don't think anyone's ready for what's coming, Slavin says. It's all started to dawn on me, the philosophical aspects of it. That's kind of why I wanted to talk about it. So he describes AI's place in arts as obviously a tool and made it clear that he's not advocating for the replacement of any human made music, but thinks it deserves an open, honest conversation free from stigma. And I agree with Paul, absolutely. He's been experimenting with writing lyrics and then using generative AI prompts to craft the sound behind it. I've generated over 3 hours of what I consider the most mind blowing music I've had anything to do with, Slavin says. I'm halfway through a space opera musical. I've done a whole bunch of traditional country western, such and such. He talks about all that. None of his AI generated music has been shared anywhere outside of private conversation. He's been at it for 6 months, making music like crazy, he said. I haven't shown anybody any of it or mentioned it until this. I think maybe that's why I did it. I just wanted to put my toe in the water and see if the piranhas bite it off. And bite it off they did, because the Rubber Gloves announced AI Music Night on Instagram. It's going to be a free night. And within minutes, the piranhas, as Slavins put it, they came out for the kill. They came for the jugular, and all sorts of spite and hateful comments. My goodness. One user wrote, "What's the discussion to be had? Generative AI should not exist in art." Discussion ends there for me personally. And then if you go on to the Facebook, you will be thoroughly entertained or alarmed at the display of vitriol and hate concerning this idea. AI Music Night was a terrible title for the event, and I scoffed at it and didn't look into it further, not knowing it was going to be Paul Bleep Slavins hosting and giving his thoughts on the use of AI in music and sharing some pieces he's made using it. That becomes an incredibly more interesting event, because if there's anyone who doesn't need AI to create beautiful songs, it's him. And on it goes. I like people being critical of one of the most creative, talented people. So, a bit more objective there. Hey, AI, write a song that sounds like 10 hands. The goatee is the patron saint of windowless vans. A lot of the sarcasm here. Paul has always been ahead of his time. If I make art by telling AI to create a picture in Dali style that shows cats in outer space, that is okay. But if a musician uses AI to make outer space music, it's an abomination. I don't get it. I thought the problem with AI art was the artist gets cut out. But if the artist uses it like any other new technology, it's a problem. Grok, explain this to me. Like it makes logical sense. And a lot of colorful comments here. Some of them are very optimistic. Some of them are a little bit more hateful, right? But you can read. And what I find here is the analogy of the ostrich with its head in the sand. The ostrich buries its head in the sand and refuses to dialogue and refuses to debate. That is not going to move us forward as a community. No matter how much we love music in its purest form, no electronics, just good old instruments as they were created. And I have many of them. I have acoustic guitars, I have flutes, I have saxophones, I have pianos, all that stuff. Yes. But a very important concept is you cannot force your viewpoint on other musicians. You shouldn't. You shouldn't force your viewpoint because at that point, music begins to lose its pizzazz. It becomes drudgery and it becomes draconian. So whether you hate AI or you love AI, don't push your viewpoint on others. Let them do what they want to do, you know? Because what I'm hearing in the comments from Paul's story here is people are getting extremely passionate, but also very aggressive. And those two don't mix very well. When you're trying to force your viewpoint with insults, as I have seen, many of the videos I've put out, I see a lot of just unnecessary grenade behavior. That doesn't move the situation forward. What I would love to see is anyone who feels very passionately about AI not being used in music to explain what they mean by not being used. Because AI has been around for the past decades, to be honest. It's already been used in music. People just didn't know it. When you look at mastering and mixing and the intelligence in many of the boards we have, it's bordering on AI. Now, Lambda came out, and I've been using Lambda since 2017. How do you think my mastering engineer feels when he looks at Lambda? The guy had to drop out of the game because a lot of kids in their basement playing with GarageBand, even some can afford Pro Tools. But do I begrudge them for using Pro Tools instead of going to my favorite 2.5 reel to reel studios? Do I begrudge them for not using ADATs and having it on a platter to use the likes of Mixcraft and Logic and all the others that exist? Times will always change. This generation and the next generations to come, they will eventually check out. Then what will be in the world? There's going to be a new world order, whether you like it or not. You can fight it all you like while you're here, but when you ain't, new world order is going to take over. All you can do is be true to yourself, share your truth, be respectful of others, and have a dialogue, have conversation, have debate. Okay? Clem James came through. Let's see what Clem James says. No, it does not less valid if a human guides AI to create something meaningful. Thank you for pitching in your thoughts there. SOJ Music Lab, good to see you coming through. I'm a retired church musician who can't sing until I started using AI vocal singing software. Great tool, but now with Suno, I can create an entire atmosphere where it can take my original or another. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And you know what the honest truth is? If that makes you happy, makes your listeners happy, I don't begrudge you. I'm not going to try to force you to go back to where you started, SOJ, because, back in the day, it's all manual ways of doing things. The arranger keyboards are now so sophisticated that they're almost as good as AI, to be honest. Genos 2, I'm sure you know about these keyboards, SOJ Music Lab. Chat into me, let me know if you know about these. But the Genos 2 and even the older Genos and even the PA5X and the PA700, those all cost a pretty penny. But when you look at the low cost solution that you're using, I don't begrudge you if you are using that solution. And I don't think anyone should. And in the same vein, No one should begrudge the musicians who are slugging it out using manual methods, using an acoustic bass, minimal mic, acoustic piano. I love that stuff. Are you kidding me? I eat that stuff for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That is the drug I take. You talk about taking anything, that's it. Listening to the early day Coltrane and McCoy. Are you kidding me? that is my food. Those are my people. You understand? Ron Carter, Miles Davis, Herbie Hancock. When you eat that kind of food, you're not going to be able to replace that with anything. That's a given. But not everyone has that palate. Not everyone has that palate. Like the younger generation, a lot of them are into various styles that I actually had to ask my daughter, what's this style? Because I was hearing this style being thrown around. I can't even remember what it's called. And I asked her, she said, oh, this is it. Here, listen. So there are many genres that, the older generation doesn't even know of. And I believe that the way things are going, there will be genres that will fit the mold that AI brings. And I don't begrudge people for trying it. I don't. SOJ Lab said songs recreate in a venue of style that mirrors my soundscape. Got you, got you, got you. 30 songs. Okay. Just 1 week. And I'm telling you, if you're like me, I have lots of songs from the 90s that I never did anything with, zero. And I still have a lot of songs in the basement. And the sad reality is a lot of people, they will never, ever hear those songs as they imagine them. And the sadder thing is, other people who could have been inspired by them, blessed by them, they'll never hear them. One song, my favorite, in all these jazz songs, apart from everything from Take Six, is my favorite. But McCoy Tyner's Parasina, I can listen to Parasina all day long. Just give me a pair of headphones, and I'm transported into the land of McCoy Tyner for forever. So, how do you know that one of your songs, SOJ, that you're writing isn't going to inspire someone somewhere? So I encourage people to look beyond that. Wow. Oh, those that is a cream of the crop right there. 6 foot Steinway on a B3. There you go. There you go. You have to be open-minded. Look, I visit Steinway all the time. If you look under the Phil C YouTube, you're going to see tons and tons and tons of video of me geeking out on the Steinway, loving the thing, pounding on the thing, everything from the 5'11" to the 9 foot plus. I love Steinways. That's my favorite. But at the same time, I'm not close minded. I'm like this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. And by the way, this is an awesome book. I'm gonna give a shameless plug for Herbie. This is a book you might want to take a look at. But when you think about Herbie Hancock, you look at all the work that he's done, with Miles and many others. But when you take a look at what hit, the impact he made, it was music done with electronics. And throughout the book, he talks about how he has always dabbled into electronic music, but he dabbled very heavily, and Rocket was a hit, and many other electronic hits of his have been such that they cater to a different audience than the Miles era stuff. And it's okay. Even the great Keith Jarrett, he jumped on the wagon for a while with Miles Davis and experimented with electronic music. So I think for us as evolving musicians, we need to at least have an open mind. And I wonder, I'm like, who are these people? Are these real seasoned musicians? I'm not talking about bedroom musicians. I mean musicians who can hold it down, musicians who can improvise fluently, musicians who can read and have performed and understand what art is. Because if you understand what art is, you won't shame people, you won't use force, because that does not come from a purity of heart of an artist. Fighting people, berating people, chasing them down on social media, leaving crazy comments like I showed you, that is not going to move the dialogue forward. What will move the dialogue forward is open conversation. And I have a number of questions that I would like us to look at as creatives, as musicians, because I think this will really help the community So please send anyone who has questions or has a very big opinion about the use or non-use of AI. So cultural and ethical, let's think about this. Is resistance to AI, when you hear people being resistant, is it rooted in ethical concerns? Is it rooted in fear of obsolescence or both? I have to be honest, when I first came across AI, my kid showed me, hey, dad, listen to what I did. And I listened, and where did this come from? Which tool? And she told me the tool she used. It's not one of the big three now. It's something else named after a classical composer. And I listened to it, and it was contemporary, and I felt, wow. I was sober, one, because I've been trying to get her to practice piano more, and two, listening to what she created, I felt, wow, well, there goes my hopes of getting her to practice scales and chords and stuff. But I then had another thought after about 2 to 3 weeks of mulling over it. I was actually dazed, but I came to an understanding you cannot force your viewpoint. No matter how much you love those around you, you cannot and should not force your viewpoint, music, art. You cannot force it on people. They have to evolve and it has to germinate naturally. You cannot force what you believe in on other people. Okay. Oh, SOJ Lab says, people don't remember standing on the corner waiting to use a 10-cent payphone. I'm telling you, change is inevitable and profitable with a realistic mindset. I absolutely agree. And I think if we have a realistic mindset at this point, I think it's going to help the community. At what point does experimentation with AI stop being artistic exploration and become cultural disruption? Well, I think technology is always a disruptor. Technology has been a disruptor for coders. I know a thing or two about this because I'm proficient with HTML manipulation and Java and so on, having learned this way back in the day, and I have used it to develop some helpful things. So when people say artificial intelligence is inherently evil, nothing good can come out of it, it is bad, I would like to challenge that thought because not only have I used artificial intelligence to better the musician, I have used it to educate myself. You get what I'm saying? Let me give you a few quick illustrations to buttress the point. Before the age of AI, before the age of AI, I would not in my wildest dreams have thought of developing a number of the tools I have here. Let me show you one of my most recent tools that I have developed for musicians with AI. This one right here. It's called Phil's Chord Zapper. I built this using my intelligence as an idea, and I haven't seen anything like this in the market space. But I built this with my idea, my understanding of code, my understanding of HTML, and my ability to interact with AI. Now I have a tool that can play chords for beginners. And not only major chords, it can play minor chords. And I can change to any of the 12 keys. And I can write songs with these. Now, if one sees AI as being inherently evil and bad, one wouldn't even be open to using AI to train musicians. AI can be used for good. It can be used for bad, like copying other artists, stealing, pilfering, harassing, spamming, denial of service attacks, and so on. But it can also be used for intelligent, good discourse, problem solving, you name it. So when I think about artificial intelligence, it's a tool. Why is it treated as a threat? Do we fear the people or do we fear the tool? Right? Do we fear the tool or the people who use it? What is our fear? Just like any tool, a screwdriver can be used for a lot of havoc, but it can also be used for a whole lot of good. What about a wrench? It's no different. So we have to use the understanding of ethics and culture to tackle this stuff. Let's go into the world of artistic and philosophical. Does intention matter more than the method? Just like our friend chatted in, If a human is guiding AI to create something meaningful, is it less valid? Is this tool I created less valid because I used the power of artificial intelligence to help me frame the code? Or should I go back to the dark ages and spend 4 weeks working with a developer when I very well can develop this myself? All the 12 keys from C through all of the accidentals to B. And by the way, you can press a number on your keyboard and it plays the chord. All of this to help musicians, but it's created by AI. So, all of this to say that AI can do meaningful things if a human guides it. Art made with AI could still reflect something. What is it reflecting? Is it the soul of the human creator? How do we define authorship when AI is involved? Is the artist still the one who prompts the machine? What does authenticity mean in the age of co creation with algorithms? Now, let me go a step further to tell you I have very staunch views when it comes to the use of artificial intelligence. When it comes to artificial intelligence, I could use AI in a way that is lackluster. I know when it's lazy work. It's lazy work when my human in the loop is at an all time low. I see our friend Miami Blues. Welcome. Miami Blues said it's all about intention. You are absolutely correct. It's all about intention. If the intention is right and your ethics and your morality is right, you have your own ethics and morality. Everyone has different benchmarks. Some people are like, I will never use AI to write a single lyric. Maximum respect. Some people are like, I need help of AI to write my lyrics. I don't begrudge you. And some people say, you know what? I'm just going to put in one word, generate a song. It's all according to your level of development. Now, I give my daughter as an example. She's not jammed in any jam session outside. She's not played with band. She's not toured anywhere. She's not slept on the studio floor having the bugs bite you. She's not slept on studio couches. She's not seen 2 days of no sleep because you're in the mix room mixing with the engineer, falling asleep, waking up. He's still at it. And sometimes you're the mix engineer. She's not been through any of that. But if I take all my experience and use it as a weapon, shame on me. If I take all my musical experience and use it to power up and gang up on someone and shame them and make them feel small, then the shame is on me. And for all the musicians out there that are shaming people, beating them over the head, I want to say, are you truly a musician? You need to go to the masterclass that Herbie Hancock had on masterclass.com because that was a phenomenal view into the mindset and the purity that we as musicians need to have. Musicians are some of the most prideful people in this world. I cannot tell you the ridiculous comments that I've seen on a lot of videos. Well, when you're ready to play something serious, play it because you sound like a 5 year old. You're not a musician. You may play an instrument, but you do not embody the philosophy that Herbie Hancock talks about. You're not pure in heart. You're judgmental and you are attacking. A true musician does not do that. So when my daughter came to me with her creation in AI, I didn't judge her, but I was dazed for many days. Dazed for days. But I recovered by going through my own rehabilitation program and hearing the words, such as what Herbie Hancock shared in his masterclass. And you need a pure mind, a pure state of mind in music. Being judgmental, looking down at people's creations, saying, "Oh, you're useless. You can't even play this scale. You can't even play this chord." Laughing at people. And like I said, I learned from the best. I learned so much from Herbie. So humble. Another person who I've learned from is Chick Corea. Extremely humble. I ran into Chick at Cabot Hall in London. And as we got talking, he said, do you know my friend Herbie Hancock? He wasn't even trying to power up his catalog. He was saying, have you heard of Herbie? Have you heard of my friend? He was just so easygoing, open-minded, took time out and taught me lessons in improvisation that I will never forget because my improvisation changed. He could have said, "Who's this no non-entity? I didn't know who you are." But he didn't do that. He took time out. He signed the CDs. I asked him questions about improvisation and he got into my head and shared stuff that changed my world. That is the epitome of a true musical ambassador. Not the jokes who are running around cursing people, shaming them, using force. That will never get you anywhere as a musician. So I want to appeal to the true musicians. Will the real musicians stand up if you spent the blood, sweat, and tears behind a console in that boiling hot room, just playing your licks on that guitar until the producer says, "Stop"? I implore you, let's have open dialogue with people. Even if you come across little Johnny down the street who made 200 songs with AI, don't shame that kid. That's not going to turn the narrative around. I understand we're very passionate about music. I have decided to use my passion to train and educate and expose people to more music. That's what I'm about. As a result of that, if you go to philc.net, the very first page, I have put out free training. I have two videos. One video, I'm training my nephew on how to play chords and scales and theory. The second video, I'm showing my friend Connor, who works at Milano's, I'm showing him the mysteries of the piano. We're there on a piano and I'm teaching him. And I did that because I want to give back. I love music. I love seeing people play. If you watch some of my videos, you see me jamming with just random people. I met them like 5 minutes ago, and we're jamming like we're the best of friends. Why? Because I love music. I love the interaction. SOJ Music says MIDI is basically, you said it. MIDI is basic AI when you mimic several instruments, but you have to sculpt it to sound realistic, not human. Exactly. You can have all the MIDI stems till the cows come home, but if you're not able to select the right VST, you are at sea. What you're creating is going to sound like garbage. And the same for anything else in music. Like all those things people get from the AI tools, if you don't clean them up, if you don't massage them, they're just going to be like rubbish. So it doesn't take away the need for the human. In fact, it accentuates the skills that are needed to sculpt. And I like the word you use, sculpt. You got to sculpt that stuff. So when we think as musicians, we got to ask, what does authenticity mean in the age of co-creation with algorithms? And then we have to ask, who gets to decide which conversations are too controversial to be had in public? Because I feel for Paul. And Paul, if this ever gets to you, come on the channel. Okay? Paul, come on the channel. Let's have debate. We have over 3,000 willing participants who want to hear your viewpoints. Let's talk about it. And in fact, I'm going to hunt Paul down. I'm going to look for Paul so that discussion, we're going to have it. We're going to have it on social media. We're going to break this thing apart because this man isn't even looking to play his music. He just wants people to begin the dialogue. And I wholeheartedly agree with Paul. We got to have the dialogue. We got to be the evolved species that is able to dialogue. Is canceling dialogue the same as preserving values? Or does it erode our ability to evolve artistically? I think it erodes our ability. I think so personally. I think that the moment you're trying to silence an individual by sharing their truth or beginning a dialogue, I think we're going into the dark ages. How do we create space for uncomfortable but necessary discussions in our creative communities? Well, we find people with opposing views who are ready to discuss respectfully. That's how it starts. Is immediate outrage a sign of a broken system of communication or system working exactly as designed? I want you to put a comment below. Tell me, is immediate outrage, backlash, crazy behaviors on social media, YouTube, and so on, is it a sign of a broken system of communication or system working exactly as designed? The final set of questions I would love for you to comment on, because it's an open forum. I want to hear from everyone. So even if the video is over and you get a moment to comment, I need you to comment. Let's talk about tech and creativity. We talk about AI slop a lot, and the term is so amusing because you know who eats a slop? It's the piggies. Oh dear, Keith, welcome. Keith just came from another live stream. Really? Herbie dropped in. Are you kidding with me? Drop that, Keith. If you got the link, drop it. Drop it. I want to know what Herbie said because I'm a Herbie follower. I'm a herbivore. That's for sure. Please drop it. I want to know. Yeah, because I don't know what Herbie's current views are, but I know he's a tech nut and I know anything technology, it intrigues him. Another person who is a mind-blowing, amazing pianist is Jordan Rudess. I mean, wizard on the keys. He embraces the idea about artificial intelligence. And I'm like, if Jordan can do this, what is this person's problem or that person's problem? Another individual who's had huge commercial success is Grimes. And Grimes said, you know what? Use my voice, right? You probably know about her because of Elon Musk. Use my voice. Just give me a cut. I'm like, wow, an open source mindset. That is quite commendable because most people are either burying their head in the sand, they don't want to talk about it to avoid the so called backlash, or they're just mute because they don't have an opinion. And that's not right. You should have an opinion. If you have an opinion, I want to know it. If you're like, AI music is slop, all AI music, whether you used it to create a stem, whether you used it to create two stems, whether you used it to create a whole ensemble, everything AI, anything AI touched is garbage. Whether it touched the mix, whether it touched the master, whether it touched the distribution, let's put all of it in there. It's all garbage. Whether it touched the amplification. Do you know that the amplifiers these days are beginning to build in AI? I went to Guitar Center the other day and I was talking about AI to them, and they said, Phil, it's already here. And they mentioned the brand. They said, if you play a song, AI is going to assess the equalization and give you a similar curve on the frequencies. I'm like, what? It's already in the amplification? So let's just put it all in. But I want to know your viewpoint. Do you have a tolerance? Would you say, okay, I created my drum stem with AI. Is that okay? Or if I created a drum stem and a bass, am I in dry land? Or the moment I begin to put in a keyboard and strings and synth pads, am I transgressing? Or is it the moment I put in background vocals? Is it the background vocals? Or is it the lead vocal? Is that what you take offense to? Or is it all of it? Let's be honest, because the way things will evolve, you will begin to see AI baked into the arranger keyboards and into the DAWs, which we've already seen. We've already seen AI being baked into the DAWs. You get what I'm saying? So if I use Suno Studio to generate one or two stems, am I to the Puritans transgressing? You see what I'm saying? Which is why I understand we all have different thresholds and different levels of understanding. It is not all going to be the same. But I think we need to have a fair debate and discussion, which is why I will do everything to find Paul and make sure that we have the discussion on this channel. So what happens when creative boundaries are no longer technological but cultural? That's a very, very slippery slope right there. That's a slippery slope right there. I would love it if someone could comment on that. What happens when creative boundaries are no longer technological but cultural? How will young artists, musicians who grow up with these tools change the definition of musician, writer, or painter? Now, let's go a step back and talk about a revered figure in IT space. Great Steve Jobs. Jobs and Wozniak, people who we admire, okay, for various reasons. Wozniak because of his big heart, and Jobs because of his drive and insane vision. Jobs and Wozniak were at a bar showing off their blue box creation. Wozniak was the brainchild of that, And they showed it to a couple of guys and said, "Do you know this could actually dial numbers for free? Anything you want within the United States, you can just dial it." They said, "Test it out." And they tested it out. And as the story goes, the men were interested and said, "Follow us back to our car. We're going to pay you." It was $500 or something to that effect. So the man goes to his glove compartment and out comes a gun as opposed to $500 and said, "Hand it over, brother. Hand it over, brother." And Steve Jobs is like fixed on the spot, handing it as slow as he can without resistance. And they turn around and walk off. And Wozniak says, "I never want to do that ever again." And Jobs said, "People want to kill for your product. Are you crazy? Let's do this all over." And they started Apple, and the rest is history. But Jobs is a revered figure. And what Steve Jobs brought to the table were innovations and ideas that have changed the world of art and music. Think about that for a second. He loved art, but he loved technology. Maybe we can learn a thing or two from Steve Jobs. Maybe we can learn how to have both cohabit in our brain. Maybe the future of art, the future of music, actually does lie in being able to bridle, harness, and get AI under some form of control, some form of ethical guidelines. And I know it's going to differ country by country because when we started talking about culture, I started thinking about other continents where are you a clown? Do you actually think AI can remotely replace the tabla player on the streets of India? What are you on? Do you think AI can replace a sitar player? Do you think AI can replace a talking drummer on the streets of West Africa? They will tell you what's up with you. So the world of music and AI has a long way to go. In some countries, no. It will be outrightly rejected. It will be laughed at. It will become a taboo. And that's understandable. But in other cultures where there's a lot of freedoms, it will be explored. People are already doing all sorts of parodies with AI and country music. I think country music has got to have had the most parodies ever on YouTube. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Oh dear, SOJ Music said, "Inserting crowd noise." Yes, inserting crowd noise. That's true. Inserting crowd noise, it has become quite an issue on Suno. Yeah. SOJ Lab also says it's fear of the unknown mixed with too much sci-fi TV shows. I think so. I think people are just freaked out and then everyone is parroting what everyone else is saying. New musicians will not have a piano in their homes as I did. They will listen to commercial soundtracks, record sound and sample. It's true. Change the envelopes and save to their MPC. It's true. And that's if they even know what an MPC is, SOJ. Who knows? They probably, the way this generation is going, it's going to be a phone. It's not going to be an MPC. In fact, they've started doing that thing on phones already because if you download these apps, you can actually create your drum loops on your phone. I mean, I experimented with that before the world of AI came and took everyone by storm. Hi, Marcus. How you doing? Good to see you as always. So, all of this to say, let's close because I appreciate your attention to this matter. Are we living in a moment of renaissance or collapse or both? What are you thinking about when you think about this age? I think we all need to begin having these discussions at the grassroots levels in our schools, in our religious establishments, for those who are so inclined, with our friends, with fellow musicians, and without fear of judgment. If you are for artificial intelligence, you shouldn't be begrudged. It should be a discussion. Why? What is your threshold? We all have different thresholds. There's still some types of music some people will never listen to. Now, I grew up with a lot of rock, a lot of hard rock and roll, a lot of Elvis, a lot of Beatles, because my mom was into that kind of music. But when I play the real hard rock and the riffs, a lot of my friends too now, they're like, "Phil, no, that's too much for me. I can't listen. I play Hey Jude, and that's my tolerance." And I don't begrudge you. I shouldn't want to make you like rock music. I shouldn't want to make you like a cappella music. Some people like, Phil, it's too boring. I need instruments. And meanwhile, I'm salivating at the next Take Six album that's coming out. Are you kidding me? They've got an album coming out soon they've been working on for a while. You know how that excites me. And to other people, they're like, Phil, I need instruments. So we're all different, but we can all have dialogue and discourse. It's okay to not like AI music. It's okay to not like music that is just acoustic. Some people are like, it's boring, right? And then you have on the other side of the spectrum, my dad, rest his soul, who was a junkie for classical. Talk about he could hum any classical tune you told him about. Everything from Handel to just name it. He had stacks of records. But not everyone is like that. Some people are. Some people are purely into classical. Some people are purely into R&B. But when it comes to AI, this is the polarizing factor. But it shouldn't polarize us such that we don't have sensible discourse and debate. So let the big debate start. Drop me a comment. Let me know what you think about the world of AI. I appreciate you for coming through today. I wish you all the very best in your music. If you have not subscribed to any of the channels, please do so. There's a couple of channels. There is at Phil C and there's at AI Music Law, because I am a real tech head. I mean, when you talk about the world of mixing and mastering, I've been dabbling in the world of mixing and gear for over 30 years. Old days, reel to reel, big old reel to reel, cassette tape. Those things excite me. They get me buzzing. I love them. So I encourage you, my friends, let's have more dialogue and debate, and put the comments in there if you've got any further comments. Keith said it was okay. Okay. Thank you, Keith. I'm going to check that out. You see why I like having these forums, because we get to know what's happening in the industry. Okay. I'm happy to know that. Thank you, Keith. All right, my friends, I wish you all the very best in your musical journey. If you got any questions about any of the keyboards I feature all the time, my DGX 670 is just waiting for questions. I got one question from Nancy the other day, and I ain't seen no other questions. So if you got questions, you might want to put them in this video. The Go keys, you got questions about that. The Korg series, the Chronos, the Tridents, the motifs. I'm always here for your questions. And for those of you Suno fans, AI music fans, drop me any questions. I've done a number of lives. I've probably done this week over 10 hours of lives just showing people how to use Suno. In fact, Suno, I think I'm doing a lot of advertising for you. I'm coming for you, Suno. Enjoy it while it's free. All right, my friends, take care. All the very best, and bye for now.